I used to laugh at drowning people. They looked so silly. All those thrashing limbs, sticks of pink turning blue, pounding up for air, splashing. "Not the nicest thing," said Mother to my left. "Lewd, dear. Rude. Setting an example. Now that's what it's all about." I'd watch the lake. It was a mother and daughter today, drowning together. Sweet. Oh, the mother was dead. I goggled and giggled with the group. Mother cuffed me for that sometimes, for laughing too hard. And they were hard cuffs too. Don't ever mistake pudgy hands for soft. "What's the matter with you?" she'd spit, slamming those fists together like an inbred gibbon. But I had to clap, I'd say. "It's what you do." She'd scoff at me, roll her eyes, snatch away the food. I'd never learn, apparently. I loved the slipping, especially the fat ones. They made a bigger splash. Of course, Mother wasn't so keen. I think she felt an affinity with the bigger bellies, the beefier arms. "Now don't get sucked in," she'd say, slurping on a leg of chicken. "Just watch, nod, wave with the wrist, and when the moment comes, tap the fingers together, like this. See? Sophisticated. It's what they want." She cocked her head knowingly, stripped off the meat, held the bone between her teeth, and began a gentle tapping, rubbing spots of grease into her palms. "They're counting on us," she said. A pair of skinny legs pierced the water like scissors. I felt the laughter twitching in my mouth, but I caught Mother's frown, gulped hard, and kept it down. She let me lick the bone and tossed it over the side. Down. It just wasn't fair. Everyone else got to laugh. Proper laughing, too. Hearty, happy clapping. So why not me? I didn't like being an example. On show. They didn't know how hard I had it. It's so cold. Quiet. You see that house jutting over the water? Colourful number on the alpine backcloth. You see? Well, that's us. Or it was. Prime seats. Ringside view. Facilities on hand. We loved our balcony. Our pride and joy. It was hand-carved, polished pine wood, with spindly stilts probing the ice right down to the bed. They're not made that way now. It's all processed, chipboard, varnish, metal poles and anti-rust. Not that I've checked. We never touch such things. Mother liked to feel we were of a higher class than the rest. There to pave the way, to set the trends. So when she'd clap in her silly, dainty way, she'd hold her head up high, haughty, imperious, hoping they were watching. They weren't, of course. When the faceless figures flop through the ice, the eyes of the crowd are all for them. Until the next one comes along. Some people disapproved. Of course they did. Called it the sadist's schadenfreude, a sick scaffold for the modern age. Killjoys. We weren't monsters. We were just part of the curve. Drowning voyeurism. It was in vogue. That's all. Just in vogue and wonderfully popular. Some years we'd have hundreds flocking to the lake, families flooding up the banks, picnic blankets and hot tea, craning their necks for the drop, hoping they weren't too late. The sky would go black with helicopters, an endless flow dumping men and women onto the half-thawed ice, hemmed in by the rowdy crowds jostling, jeering. I almost felt sorry for them, the soon-to-be dead. They looked so scared. Almost sorry, because they did deserve it. No doubt about that. They were convicts, criminals, the non-essential wastrels of the world. That's what Mother said. Damned to be drowned by the letter of the law. What can I say? I was happy. Happy to see them drown. Fodder for our sport. And what a sport. I remember one time a man held out for a week. We couldn't believe it. He was like a cockroach. Died of thirst in the end. Too scared to go near the water. I think Mother missed the irony. She wasn't a kind woman. I knew that, really. But I was a mirror and I couldn't help it. I started to think like her, clap like her, hold my head to the clouds like her. Sometimes she'd let me have a whole piece of chicken all of my own. Sometimes. I had to hide the giggles if I wanted to be fed. And mostly, I was a good girl. Mostly. Most days, when someone goes down, they don't come up. The hole freezes over too quick behind and they're dragged away, dark, writhing shapes under the ice. Except for this one time. He was a weedy lad, young thing. Can't have been older than me. He'd hardly been down a minute and already the stands were thinning, pitchforks slung over shoulders, off to waiting cars. Mum was busy fishing for batter, thick nails scooping up the scraps. But I was watching, looking for stray bubbles. His claw came first, I think, striking out by chance from a part frozen sheet, filmy stuff. He was shivering so much he blurred, a pale pink slimy something hauling himself out of a deep black puddle. Mother didn't notice. She stood up and wandered into the house. He couldn't stand, the boy, and he looked far away. No mother, no crowds, no examples. I made up my mind. Vaulting the balcony and gracing the ice, I ran to him. It wasn't far at all. Close to, I saw his wrinkled skin, once vital, wrung like a fetid sponge. His eyes were pale, glassy, pleading. But his lips, electric blue. I knelt down instinctively, held his head and pressed my mouth to his. My lungs at once were bellows, pumping in warm air, joining up our beating hearts. And he choked, coughing up blood and water, sat up, stood up, smiled. Our eyes met again, and I knew that he wasn't a bad boy at all. He never had been. And so we left the house, the mother, and the lake, and followed the crowds in their cars to somewhere else. Somewhere new. That's the story I'd like to tell. Truth is, I just stood there, clutching the pinewood rail, and let him die. He was twitching for a long time, body freezing stiff as the night drew in, lungs stuffed with water. Dry drowning, they call it. I pulled a blanket from the floor and hugged it tight. He disappeared into the dark. When I woke on the balcony, the sun was out and the lake was wet and empty. Why am I telling you all of this? It's not as if any of it matters. This was elder time, past tense. because we soon discovered the mob to be a fickle friend. They lose interest fast.
"What's wrong with it?"
Mother said, meaning the lake, waving frantically at the empty stands and sky.
"Thin ice galore, where are they?"
I told her what I'd heard the men saying the day before, down by the water, that there'd been some coup somewhere, a change of some old law. They'd stopped building the helicopters. That was it. So no more drowning, no more clapping. Mother wasn't happy. She'd got so large, her every step would set the stilts on edge. I was older then, no longer a child, still in my chair. She harumphed.
"This won't do! It won't do at all!"
And then she looked me, dead in the eyes, and I knew at once what she had in mind. The daintiest of sweaty smiles crossed her lips. She reclined.
"If there is no entertainment," she said, "we have to make it ourselves. Right?"
I nodded. In a heartbeat, I was down on the ice, for real, this time, and Mother's face was alight, eager, excited. I wandered over the lake, towards the weaker parts, but as she'd taken all I could eat, it bore my weight. Mother saw this, tossed her chicken aside, and stamped her feet in frustration. The floor trembled. She stood up, making to come after me, to tell me, to fix me, to show me how it was done. And well, that did it. Because there's a reason they don't make those hand-carved balconies anymore. The rot got in, you see, year by year, freezing and lapping and digging and growing, splintered and cracked. When Mother struck the lake, she rolled a good distance, like an old boulder claimed by a passing avalanche. The ice was thicker at the edges, away from the light. I could have run to her, like the boy, helped her up and out, but she looked so silly.
"Girl!"
she shouted.
"Girl!
"Come to me! Please!" But I shook my head, waved my wrist like a good girl, and nodded. I tapped my fingers together. I think I can still see her, Mother, in my mind, wobbling over the ice, plumes of putrid breath vomiting up the cold. I can see the cracking hairline fractures forming under each galumphing plod, crystal filaments laxing their grip at her approach, drifting, letting go, one by one by... one. I'm lying on the ice, looking down through the white fog, and I think I see her. Just there. A bulk of a body, puffy cheeks stuck to the surface, like a tongue glued to a lolly. Blue lips, blue like the water. Grey skin, like the sky. Veiny, like veins. I wonder what it's like for her, under the lake. Are the dead still thrashing? Do they still have skin? Mother's hands are flopping down into the dark, still pudgy. Perhaps she's caught a leg and she's fingering a bone in the dark. Perhaps she's clapping. Yes, maybe that's it. Maybe it's a chorus and she's teaching the dead, setting her example. Blue lips and dainty applause.
It's what they want.
It's silent now, on the lake. Even the trees have stopped. Look at that. The sun's come out. And I can't get up. I'm stuck. Can't get up, but I'm smiling. Smiling, laughing, can't get up, head against the ice, listening, drowning. Laughing. I'm laughing. Why am I laughing? I used to laugh at drowning people, but no more people. No more people, just me. Me, the gibbon on the ice, laughing. Laughing, drowning, melting, the mother and the daughter drowning, down, down and down with the balcony dead. Dead and laughing. Frozen, laughing. Quiet, giggling, drowning. Blue. Pale. Blue. My name is Blue. Did I tell you my name? Did I tell? Anyone? Everyone? Blue. Blue like the water, the sky, the lake, the lips. Blue and small, far away like the boy laughing. 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 Blue. You, Blue, you'll remember. Won't you? You'll remember, Blue, you have to. You do, laughing, smiling, stop. Stop laughing at Blue, you, I know you, stop. Please. You, me, you, the sun, the water. You.